Welcome to Mountain Strong. Today I've come back to Flat Top Mountain. I've actually come to the trail on the backside of Flat Top Mountain and ascended what's called Peak 3. I've mentioned all of that in previous videos, and so it was a goal to try to get to Peak 3. The unsatisfying thing about getting to Peak 3 is the realization that I guess behind Peak 3 there must be Peak 4, Peak 5, Peak 6. There seems to be several high points along this ridge here that you could probably explore, and it just reminds you that we are in the Chugach State Park, which is the third largest park in the United States, the third largest state park in the United States, and so it's a massive block of land, and you really get a sense of that when you start climbing up in these mountains. Today we're going to have a look together at Psalm number 94. Let's read that now. O Lord God of vengeance, O God of vengeance, shine forth. Rise up, O Judge of the earth. Repay to the proud what they deserve. O Lord, how long shall the wicked exult? They pour out their arrogant words, all the evildoers boast. They crush your people, O Lord, and afflict your heritage. They kill the widows and the sojourner, and murder the fatherless. And they say the Lord does not see, the God of Jacob does not perceive. Understand, O dullest of the people. Fools, when will you be wise? He who planted the ear, does he not hear? He who formed the eye, does he not see? He who disciplines the nations, does he not rebuke? He who teaches man knowledge, the Lord, knows the thoughts of man, that they are but a breath. Blessed is the man whom you discipline, O Lord, and whom you teach out of your law, to give him rest from days of trouble, until a pit is dug for the wicked. For the Lord will not forsake his people, he will not abandon his heritage. For justice will return to the righteous, and all the upright in heart will follow it. Who rises up for me against the wicked? Who stands up for me against evildoers? If the Lord had not been my help, my soul would soon have lived in the land of silence. When I thought my foot slips, your steadfast love, O Lord, held me up. When the cares of my heart are many, your consolations cheer my soul. Can wicked rulers be allied with you, those who frame injustice by statute? They band together against the life of the righteous and condemn the innocent to death. But the Lord has become my stronghold, and my God, the rock of my refuge. He will bring back on them their iniquity, and wipe them out for their wickedness. The Lord, our God, will wipe them out. Social justice is a very hot topic in today's society. The idea that there are people who have been and who are being oppressed, and the idea that there needs to be something done about that. Too often, at least my perception has been that the solution to injustice is to overcorrect. And I say that in the sense that when someone has been oppressed, when someone has been beat down, someone has taken advantage of that, either by being lumped in with a certain group or being a certain race or being a certain gender even today. And the ideas of today are that we're going to force the scale this way and drive the scale down this way. You know, and some people don't like that way of looking at it, but really that seems to be where we as a society are headed. And my suggestion to the Bible believer who wants social justice, who sees that there have been races of people that have been oppressed and that there have perhaps been gender inequalities in society, pay structures and all those kind of things. If you're a person who is troubled by all of those things, be mindful that the pressing down of any group is not right. And the solution of faith to social injustice is found in the Bible. And of all the places we could turn in the Bible, I think this psalm would be a really good one to have a look at. Because again, what is the psalmist concerned with? Well, he's concerned with social injustice. In verses 3 through 7, he describes how there are people who are evildoers and who are crushing God's people, but who are they targeting? They're targeting those who are the marginal members of society. They're targeting those who are the strangers in society, the foreigners. They're targeting people who are easy to target, the widow, the sojourner. They're murdering the fatherless, the orphan. We find later that they're shedding innocent blood, and you can't help but think about a spectrum of things that are happening in our society today, from abortion to ill treatment of those who have immigrated to our country. And I know there's a lot of hot topic buttons that I press with saying both of those things, but realize that the solution to these things does not lie in government. The solution does not lie in getting angry about it merely. Obviously, we are troubled by these things, but the solution to it lies in God. I want you to see what the psalmist does with his despair over the problem of social injustice. there are at least 5 actions that he takes. First of all, he takes the obvious action of leaving vengeance to God. It is not our place to exact vengeance. And I say that knowing that most of the people who watch this video are not going to be tempted to exact physical vengeance, but what you might be tempted to exact is verbal vengeance, and to speak loudly, arrogantly, and angrily at people who oppose your viewpoint on these kind of issues. Well, leave vengeance to God, but it's not wrong to seek it. In verses 1 and 2, the psalmist talks about God being the God of vengeance, but he calls for this God to shine, to rise up, to do something about this problem. So we leave vengeance to God, but it's okay to ask for Him to do something about it. And in fact, I wish that our prayers would be colored with more of this kind of language, calling God to do something about the injustices in our society. Number 2, we need to speak wisdom and call out foolishness. In verses 8 through 11, notice how he attacks those who are not viewing the wisdom of God properly and are not on the side of God, those who are oppressing those people who are downtrodden. He says that they are foolish. It's okay to call sin for what it is. And he's saying that that is foolish, but he's saying it's foolish in a very reasonable way. Notice how in the course of arguing with these people, he's arguing from, first of all, design. He talks about the person who planted the ear, who formed the eye. And that's maybe something that should color our language as well as we speak to them. But he's also arguing from history. In verse 10, he says, "He who disciplines the nations, does he not rebuke? Haven't you seen the way God brings down those nations that are loftily lifted up against him and are downtrodden those who are disenfranchised? Haven't you seen what happens when people do these kinds of things?" So calling people to remembrance. Number 3, as far as the actions he takes, he upholds the good life, the life of following God. In verses 12 and 13, he talks about the fact that the man is blessed, the man is happy, the man is joyous, who is disciplined by the Lord and who is taught out of God's law. He is a person who is delivered from trouble and a person who, as we've already said, is blessed. Uphold the good life, but in the course of doing that, number 4, declare personal victories. It's one thing to say that the life of faith is good, but it's another and perhaps more powerful thing to say the life of faith is good for me and has been good for me. Notice how the psalmist describes his personal victories in verses 16 through 19. He talks about how the Lord has been his help, how the Lord has preserved him with steadfast love, how the heart of the psalmist has been given encouragement or consolation. His soul has been cheered by God. It's important to share personal victories with those who are downtrodden and those who are feeling the sting not only of society, but perhaps of sin. There are many lessons that one can draw from this text. But number 5, as far as an action to take about social injustice, we need to preach confidence in God. If we are the kind of people who are saying, "What's the world coming to?" and we're preaching doom and gloom all over the place, that hardly is 1 Peter chapter 3, where we are declaring the reason of hope that is in us. Notice how he preaches confidence in God in these troubling times. In verses 14 and 15, he says that the Lord will not forsake his people, not abandon his heritage, and justice is going to return to the righteous. And I'm thankful that he says those words, because a lot of people today aren't saying those kind of things. They're acting as though the sky is falling and it's never gonna get back up there. God is a delivering God. He delivers in his time. Vengeance is his. He's going to take care of these situations and these problems. In verses 20 through 23, notice how he asks the question, can it really be, God, that you're on the side of these wicked rulers? No. And therefore, what's the battle here all about? Sometimes when we're dealing with matters of social injustice, sometimes we feel it's us against them and we're losing. It's the wrong way of looking at it. It's not us against them. It's them against him. And he's going to be victorious. And I hope that you will reflect upon that the next time you are concerned about what's happening in our society. May God bless you today.